I have been asked by the family several times to pass on Grandma Pekin's secrets for making zuccarini. I got all the ingredients. Steve's recording. We're going to do this in real time. First off, these are the ingredients. You need a ½ pound of melted butter. It's not melted yet. We'll get it in the microwave in a minute. You need anise seeds. A lot of places have never heard of them, but they're anise seeds. You're going to need about a teaspoon of those. Anise extract. Comes, from McCormick. It's the liquid stuff. Tastes like licorice. And you're going to need some of that. 3 teaspoons of baking powder. 5 cups of flour. 8 eggs beaten. We'll do that in a minute. And 3/4 cup of sugar. We'll talk about the ingredients as we go through. One thing I'm going to show before I start is one thing that needs to be set up in advance. Because when you need it, it's too late to set it up. Take some aluminum foil and press it down in a jelly roll pan and spray it with something like Pan. And you set a cookie coolant sheet over it. The purpose of that is to catch icing later, but not yet. Now we got that out of the way. 2 pounds of melted butter. I never take the packages off the butter until after I've melted them. Stick that in the microwave and let it melt. 8 eggs beaten. What I always do, I think that's 8. Let them be away back there. The wine's essential to making zuccarini. Gonna need melted butter, three teaspoons of baking powder. Now, some of you may not notice the significance of the fact that I am measuring this. But measure the baking powder. I put this into a small bowl. I generally just put in the baking powder. I put it calls for a tablespoon of anise seeds. That's about a tablespoon. It calls for 1/2 teaspoon of anise extract. You can see that all of this must be measured precisely. We need 3 cups of sugar, and we need 8 eggs beaten. The 8 eggs have been beaten. Pour them in on top of the baking powder. I'm using a fork just to mix this together a little bit, to mix the baking powder in with the eggs. Flour. 3/4 cup of sugar. I've got a 1/2 cup here. There's a 1/2. Got a mark in there. That's 1/4. That's 3/4 cup of sugar. This is why these don't always come out exactly the same each time. My next batch. ½ pound, that's 2 sticks of butter. Forgot to get out the wooden spoon. So what I have in here is my melted butter, ½ pound, approximately a tablespoon of anise seeds, 3 teaspoons measured exactly of baking powder, 8 eggs beaten, half a teaspoon of anise extract, and now I'm going to add 5 cups of flour. And all the cooking shows, they tell you about adding it slowly and all that stuff, because it mixes better. They're right. So I only put 4 in and mix it up. And then I'll add the 5th one at the end. If you want to get real Italian, you can make a little cone on the board and do all this by hand, but for zuccarini I don't do that. You do need a strong arm for this. 5th cup. That's Pam. That's not part of the old Italian recipe, but it's part of how I make this work. After you've got it all pretty well mixed up to a mushy mess, you dump it out on the board, and you knead it. And if you don't have Pam on your hands, it all sticks to your hands, and it's going to stick to the board. And that's just reality. So you need a, and I didn't get it out, metal spatula, a couple of quick whaps, comes off the board. I probably should have made a couple of batches of this year to remember some of the things that I forgot to do, but I haven't forgotten anything major other than flouring the board a little better than I did. You knead it, but not like you're kneading bread dough. You just, as you can see, I'm punching it between my hands. And then you get your good knife, which is over with the... Cut this in fourths. And I have a Tupperware bowl, and I'm setting 3/4 of it in. You could also cover this with a wet cloth, wrap it with saran wrap or something like that, but this stuff dries out real fast. So, voila. I have the oven set to 350 degrees. I have this messy bowl over here getting water in it. I can crank these out, a batch, in about an hour. We're doing this in real time. You set that down, cut it in half again. Now I need a close-up on this, if you can zoom in or whatnot. If you notice, my fingers are spread and my hands are moving outward. That's what, and I've got too much, you get it out to a thing like that. It doesn't take much of a knife, but I cut them 3 fingers. 3 fingers in length. And you take it like that, push it with your thumb, and roll it. Push it with your thumb and roll it. So it's like a little snail. You put it with the bottom of the roll down on the cookie sheet. The cookie sheet is not greased. Some of these are a little too thin. And there's a little bit too much. 2, 4, 6, 8. These are a little too powdery. Squish it, roll it, set down right on its little tail. Now, there's some argument as to how large to make them. I make a relatively small one. If you wanted to, you could make this a little bit larger. They're not difficult. The try for uniformity, they get a little difficult. But I'm using a double layer cookie sheet, by the way, one of those air bakes. That works real nice. It prevents burning. And I usually get 9 cookies out of 1/2 of 1/4 of a quarter batch. So each time I roll the little string out. These are coming out a little smaller than usual. Again, notice that, but when I spread my fingers as I'm rolling it, that's part of what runs the thing out. You move your hands away from each other. Rolling it alone will not do that. You just roll it, nothing happens. You got to spread it out. Move outward as you roll. And that's much better now. Notice I had a little tail left there that was too small to make one, and I just shoved it in with the other portion. Now, if it looks like I'm working fast, you do need to work fairly fast because this stuff is an egg dough. It does dry out. Once it dries out, you can't do anything with it. So you need to just keep working. Or if you're having problems staying up with it, keep a wet cloth over it or something like that. Out to the thickness of about your little finger, 3 fingers in width. All the cooking shows on TV, they always cut away and they say, well, I prepared this, and, you know, we're doing this in real time. Of course, I don't have to cut to a commercial either. Mine tend to get bigger as I work. Perhaps I'm going to go ahead and put this in even though the tray isn't full. Oven is at 350 degrees. I set the timer for 15 minutes.